Welcome to the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast, where we remember a time when stacks of cards were held together with rubber bands and Mickey mantles were put in bike spokes. We hope you will enjoy and reminisce as you come along with us as we tell stories about the baseball cards from the Golden Age of Baseball. We will examine the state of the vintage baseball card market and talk to some of the greatest collectors in the hobby. You won't be hearing us talk about any chrome or shiny cards here. Now, to take you on this retrospective journey, here's your host, direct from the shallow end of the gene pool, my son, Mike Moynihan.
Do you have a valuable card collection but you put zero effort into storage? Do you keep your cards in a box like this?
Or like this.
Something like this? This? Ho, ho, ho. What are we doing here? You need Pastime Marketplace. Pastime Marketplace is the Mercedes-Benz of sports card storage. The cases come in a variety of sizes. They're waterproof, airtight, dustproof, and extremely durable. If you care about your collection, visit PastimeMarketplace.com and treat your cards to the storage they deserve.
Don't forget to use discount code BENCHCLEAR to get 10% off your order.
Yo and hello everybody, Mike Moynihan here, and welcome to another episode of the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast. And I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm really happy that you're listening to this episode because I really love doing deep dives into different topics around the hobby. I love doing deep dives into different years. And Andy and I did 1953, I think back in episode number 4. So if you never listened to that or watch that on YouTube, go back and listen to that. I love just getting into the intricacies and the nuance of our hobby because there's so much of it out there that it's just so much fun to learn. And by doing those deep dives, I get to learn a lot too. Now, ironically, this is going to be a topic tonight that I really don't have a lot to learn about. And I don't mean that to sound cocky. I mean it because I literally wrote the book on it. And that'll make sense here in just a little bit. But I wanted to go deep into a PSA set registry. And the first one I wanted to do, and this will be a series, an ongoing thing that we do on these podcasts on the Golden Age of Cardboard, because there's so many cool ones out there. And I love talking about them and all the different ways to attack them, all that great stuff. So much fun. And I'm a registry addict, self-proclaimed registry addict. And I wanted to go through one of the set registries that's near and dear to my heart that I really find enjoyment in and really love collecting. But I didn't want to do it by myself. And no, Andy is not here tonight. But I did bring another friend of mine on to talk about this set because he too has an appreciation and love for this set registry. And here he is, Mr. Kevin Jones. Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Hey, Mike. Good to be here. Real happy to be here.
Well, I know you really love talking about, the hobby in general, for sure. You have a great YouTube channel. And you can talk, we'll let you talk about that here in a minute, but I know you really love this set. And the set, I'm just going to go ahead and get it out there for everybody, is the last Topps issue Hall of Fame set. And what's cool about set registries is, for me anyway, certainly I'm competitive. So there's certainly some competitiveness, right? You want to be kind of number one or whatever, but it gives you a checklist. That's also a really cool thing about a set registry. And you can just kind of track it, keep everything online, one central database. It's pretty handy. But this is a set that doesn't lend itself to that. And we're going to get into that, Kevin, here in a second. But you've heard me tell you the story of how this set came about, haven't you?
I'm not sure if I'm familiar. I'd love to hear that story, or at least get refreshed on it.
Sure. So, I loved the idea of the last card of a Hall of Famer. First of all, I love Hall of Famer stuff in general. And what's really, really neat about the last card, as you're well aware, is you've got usually they're in a quirky uniform, right?
Correct.
They're in some, they're finishing out the string with, some esoteric team that they're not known for the dominance of their career. And so you have that part of it. And then when you flip the card over, you get to see their entire career laid out in front of you in numbers. And when I was a kid, reading the back of the baseball card was part of the fun, right? You wanted to look at all the different stats and all that. And so that last card, I think, is kind of that final tribute to a player's career. And so I started making there wasn't a set registry when I started collecting this set. And so I made a spreadsheet basically about it, and submitted it to PSA, which is anybody can go out there and submit a set for consideration for PSA to add as a set registry. They denied me. Nope, sorry. And I kind of kept pressing. I wasn't willing to take no for an answer. I didn't think that was a good answer because it didn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't you do it? What's, not like it's hard. Well, maybe it is, I guess. But ultimately they relented, but they made a tweak to it, and they made it the last Topps issue of the Hall of Famer. So it's essentially a post-war set, right? Because Topps started in 51. And so you've got this post-war set. Kevin, what do you love about the last cards of Hall of Famers?
Well, like you, I think I really like the stats factor. There's a great variety as well of different eras and different years, and seeing the guys in different uniforms. One of the favorite cards of my set is the 1976 Topps Billy Williams in an A's uniform. Just a great looking card. Now, that would be a card I probably would never consider seeking out unless having kind of a driver like this set, which when you begin to lay it out and see everything in context, it's quite a beautiful project. And a nice reference for us analog guys out there in this digital world to get those full stats and weird uniforms and some nice vintage cars that are affordable. It's fantastic.
Yeah. The price factor is another huge issue that makes this set so much fun. Is you're not dealing with rookie cards, which or second year, and so they're incredibly affordable, even in mid to high grades most of the time, right? So that makes it
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, was when I got started in the project, it was really nice to be able to find some of these cards in higher grades at very, very affordable prices for true vintage cards, which for me is 1981 and earlier. Well, really 1970, but that'll be a different discussion someday. But anyway, it's just, it's a relatively speaking, with some big exceptions, it's an affordable entry point for people.
Yeah, I mean, let me just give everybody some particulars out there that may not be familiar with it. The official name on the PSA set registry, if you're looking for it, is Hall of Fame Players Final Topps Issue. In the description of the video on YouTube, I'll put a link to that set registry checklist, and you can go check that out. There's 114 cards in the set. It starts with 1953 is the last card of a Hall of Famer. And that is, who is it? Ralph Kiner, Satchel Paige, and
Johnny Mize.
Johnny Mize. So you got 3 Hall of Famers in 53 that had their last Topps card. Ironically, here's the page right here, just as an example.
This is one of my favorites of the set, the Johnny Mize.
Johnny Mize.
Such a beautiful card. It's the only one I have, but it's absolutely beautiful. The 53s are gorgeous.
Yeah, the 53s are just gorgeous. And what you said it earlier, and I hope people caught it, is that pretty much there's a card in every year. Like almost every year, there's a Hall of Famer that has a last Topps card. And so it gives you this incredible panoramic view of Topps history through this project. And it's really cool. The newest card is the 2015 Topps Derek Jeter. I don't have to say Topps anymore. We all know it's Topps. The Jeter card in 2015 is the most recent Hall of Famer card. But Kevin, I want you to tell a little bit about your story about how you got involved in doing this set registry, and maybe a little bit about your collecting background as you tell that story.
Well, we'll start with the collecting background because it leads into this registry. My dad got my brother and I the complete Topps sets out of vending boxes, the blue vending boxes from Topps. Starting in 1977, my dad started getting me the sets in 1982. And so each year he'd present us with the baseball card set, and I'd lay them all out on the floor and I'd sort them by team and ask my dad about this player and ask my dad about that player, and I'd kind of put them away and I was done with it. Well, when I was, I guess probably about 11 years old, I went into Walden Books and saw this book called Topps Baseball Cards, The Complete Picture History. And I saw all the 35 years of cards from 1951 through 1985, and it just totally led me to vintage. And I would sit on the floor of Walden Books and look at that book until my parents finally bought it for me for one of our road trips, family vacations, as a kid. And so I had a great appreciation for the vintage stuff, and then collected the modern stuff, but always vintage too when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then, like most kids around 1992, the hobby was changing a lot. I was a teenager. I just kind of dropped the hobby cold. Always hung on to everything, but pretty much stopped collecting. I had some brief returns to the hobby in like 98 and in the early mid 2000s, 2004, 5, 6, kind of in there. But again, it just kind of faded away. And I was actually in the process of selling a lot of stuff over these past few years, kind of was just done with the hobby. And then I was watching a YouTube. I liked to watch the Mike Oz YouTube videos of like people opening packs of cards, and so I enjoyed those. And through Yahoo Sports, I think he does those. And then your video, and I like to watch packs getting opened up, like old junk wax. And then your video came up as a recommendation, and I watched it. The last card of the Hall of Famers video came up, and honestly, that was the switch that flipped me on to kind of starting collecting again. That was probably in March of 2019. I have no idea why I got back into it, especially because I was in the process of selling everything, but I'm fully committed now, and it's fantastic. And that was the project that got me back into it because of its affordability primarily. And it just seemed like it was kind of fun to focus in on something like that too.
That's awesome. Warms my heart to think that I can have any influence like that on a fellow collector to fall in love with the hobby again through anything, man, that's
the true story. Just seeing that and just how cool of an idea that was. I'm like, that's a really good idea. And for me, it helps for me as a collector to give me some focus, which I like as well.
Well, speaking of focus, I told you PSA, when they made the registry, they only included Topps cards. And that kind of disappointed me a little bit, because when I had done my own research to create this spreadsheet that ultimately I published out in the public, right? That's how you found it, Kevin, right? I had a link on a video. I kind of put it out there in the world. Like I've gone through and found the last cards of all these different players, which was, by the way, awesome. It was so much fun to research and figure it out. And
yeah, I think you attached your spreadsheet to your YouTube video on that, and then I downloaded it. It was just away we go, Yeah, it was great.
The sad part about only doing Topps, and I kind of get why PSA did that. It's something that's easy to track and maintain. It's a lot less work for them, part of me thinks that's a little bit on the lazy side, but hey, whatever. At least there's something on the PSA registry, but kind of that true last card Hall of Famer would include Bowman cards. And in the more modern era, there's been a lot of examples of guys having a last card that's not necessarily a Topps card, right? The earliest one, I think, is what, 50 Bowman Luke Appling, right? Don't you have one of those?
Yes. 1950 Bowman Luke Appling, which is a great card because he's one of those players that he doesn't really have a lot of cards because he played primarily in the 30s and 40s when they weren't making a lot of cards. And, it's great to have something like that. Lou Boudreau, another player, not a famous Hall of Famer, but still a Hall of Famer nonetheless, in the 53 Bowman Color, which is just an absolutely beautiful card. And also probably the biggest omission on the Topps on that list is the 51 Burke Ross Joe Dimaggio, which is not the best looking card, but it's still a really cool card. I've had my eye on that one for a while. I just got to find the right one.
Yeah, I've been looking for that one too, to add it, just because it doesn't fit in the registry, but it fits into, like you said, our kind of way that project, I think, should really look. So yeah, the Dimaggio, the Boudreau. Yeah, like Boudreau doesn't even have a Topps card because, or maybe he has a 51 or something, or 52, but
maybe one of those red backs or blue backs, but I'm not
actually,
I'm not
no,
sure.
he wouldn't. Because if he did, it would be included on that list because that would be his final Topps issue, right?
I guess. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So that,
yeah,
because there's plenty of examples. We just mentioned one as we were getting ready to talk about this. Is, let's say, Mike Schmidt. His last Topps card is 89 Topps, but yet, right, there is a 1990 Donruss, great card, cheap card. Again, these are not, you don't have to spend an arm and a leg on a lot of these. But
yes, aside from maybe getting a Griffey or a Bo Jackson or something, the Mike Schmidt 1990 Donruss, that is about the only reason I would ever have a need to get one of those. And then when I got it, oh my gosh, it's absolutely just a beautiful card. Those 90 Donruss spruce up well in the PSA slabs, I got to tell you, especially in a 10. They spruce up real well.
And that was kind of a tribute card because on the back, it's got his stats laid out a different way than I think most of the players. And it's just really cool. You have, God, there's so many examples.
Stargell is one that has like a Fleer card.
He has a Donruss and a Fleer in 80. His last Topps card is 82, I believe. And his last true card, he has an 83 Donruss and an 83 Fleer. Yaz, like you said, has 83 Topps as his last Topps card, but he has an 84 Fleer. Johnny Bench, same year.
Yep.
That exact same scenario.
Which is a tough card to find. I've looked for that Bench quite a bit, and it's a very, very tough card to find.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I have that's kind of hilarious, talking about some of the more modern guys, is, and I don't know if this is on your registry or whose registry, but I ended up picking up the 2001 Topps Heritage Harold Baines for his last card, and I thought that was kind of a cool one. But there could be a little bit of it's some subtleties on what actually is the last card. When you're not looking at just strictly Topps, and that is another thing that just adds to the variety and makes the set so much fun.
And it also, you can see where that would give angst to, let's take Stargell. He had a Donruss and a Fleer. Which one do you include on the registry? And so just saying it's their last Topps card makes that kind of decision for you if you're going to be a registry pursuer. I'm not saying there's a wrong way to do this set. I can kind of see PSA's point of view. I don't necessarily follow it completely because, like you and we both kind of do it what we think is the normal way, which is buy their last card, whatever that
Yeah,
is.
I want the 1955 Bowman, Ralph Kiner in his Cubs uniform or whoever he was playing for then,
Right. Instead of the 53 tops, which is his
Yes.
last tops card, right? So anyway, it's there's a lot of cool ways to do this. Let's talk about some other key cards in the set. If we start, early on, you've got we mentioned the 53s.
Yeah, I call them tent pole cards is kind of the way I like to describe them when I'm kind of showing the set. And there's definitely some big key cards that can get expensive and have definitely in the last 6 months shot up a little bit for sure. But
Yeah, and that's probably, don't you think that's more of a product of all vintage kind of, going up? Not necessarily people are not out hunting for these last Hall of Famer cards, I don't think.
I do feel like I've sensed a bit of an interest in this set. Maybe it's just because I'm tracking it so closely. But I think just, the rising tide lifts all boats. So everybody's, just flocking to whatever they can because, everything is exponentially growing by the minute these days, Yeah. But I'd say there's probably, I would say 8 to 10 probably tent pole cards kind of guys in this set that are just, amazing, and some of them are kind of tricky.
Let's talk about them. Let's talk about the 8 to 10. Who do you got on your 8 to 10? I'd love to discuss.
Well, I think obviously 53 Satchel Paige. I mean, that's a rookie and a last card. That's his only tops card ever, and that is absolutely fantastic. I could kind of kick myself for passing on really nice 4s and 5s last year at this time when I look at the prices now. I mean, that's just a great card. That's probably one of, the all-time tops. I'd say probably all-time top 40 tops cards is that Satchel Paige. That's, that's a big one. For sure.
Just to correct you, that's not his rookie, just so you know.
Oh, that for tops, it's his rookie. Yes,
right. It's his first top card. It's his first and only. You're right, but he has a 48 Leaf and a 48 Bowman. But
yes,
certainly that's a tentpole card. I agree. What's the next one?
I would say the 56 Jackie Robinson,
no doubt.
Is, obviously this card I got. That's kind of hard to see here, but I got this. This spring, it was it's now or never is when I grabbed it. I'd been looking forever. It has a lot of issues, but just a beautiful card. It's the only Jackie Robinson card I've ever owned as a collector. I never had one as a kid, and I just absolutely love that card. Just a beautiful, beautiful card.
Yeah, it's a great image of him. Love it.
I think the 56 set is my favorite of that original era of, the oversized tops cards. There's just something about that 56 set. The first card I ever got in this last card Hall of Fame set was the 56 Monty Urban, which that was my first, actually the first PSA slab I ever got was the 1956 Topps Monty Urban, which is his final card. He's in a Cubs uniform, and just a great card. But yeah, I think the Robinson's definitely a tentpole card.
By the way, I sorry to interrupt you. I apologize for being such a bad influence, making you buy slab cards and all this stuff.
It's funny to digress just slightly. I resisted PSA forever. I saw what was happening in like around 2004, 2005. I'm like, PSA, this is the way. I looked at my old vintage cards as a kid. I'm like, oh, these are pretty shabby, and that kind of actually pushed me away from collecting because I just saw how expensive everything was getting. But getting into the PSA cards, I just absolutely love it. I've done some submissions. They're really, it's great. I totally did a 180 on graded cards, and I love them. I love them. I still get a lot of raw too, but I feel secure in buying them as well.
Yeah, you got a real card, or at least more likely to have a real card, right? Instead of, and it's
Hopefully,
big.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not perfect, but better than what else we have out there. Okay, what are some other tent poles that you got on your?
I think the 66 Koufax, I think, is a tent pole card. That one is very difficult, has a lot of issues with centering. But I feel like Koufax is one of those kind of all-time kind of guys. The 63 Musial, a little underrated. I think that's a very underrated card.
Beautiful card, by the way.
Beautiful 63s are gorgeous, and with those colorful borders on the bottom they're beautiful. And that card, I tend to forget about that one. I think actually, I don't even want to say it because people may go flock and buy it, but the 60 Fleer Ted Williams, that's one I haven't looked at in a while. I don't have that one, but I feel like that's a highly underrated card. At least the last time I was looking at it, that's a great card, that 1960 Fleer Ted Williams. That's another one that's different from the tops list.
Yeah, so let's talk about Ted Williams real quick, because first of all, it's a great story. And if you know Ted Williams' history with tops, it was rocky to say the least. But it wasn't consistent. It's probably a better way to say it. And so his last tops card is actually 58. And then after the 58 tops, he signed a deal with Fleer. And in 59, they made an entire Ted Williams set of just Ted Williams cards of him doing everything from fishing to flying with the Army, Air Corps, or Air Force, all these different, or Navy, I guess it was. He was actually a Navy pilot, if I remember right. So, yeah.
Yes,
right. And then,
going to school. That's crazy. Those sets are wild.
And then in 60, Fleer did a kind of all-time great set, except for one card, which was of a current player named Ted Williams. And it's weird because it's a white bordered, thick white board, like ultra thick white bordered card, much different looking than any other card in the set. And so centering is very, very difficult on that card. It's got beautiful color to it. Red, the main color is red, which of course is great for Red Sox. And, it's a really great card, but his last tops card is 58. So that is a huge player that has a, kind of different from between the registry and what his true last card was.
Yeah, that's a great card. As far as the other tent poles, I mean, it's really the guys you think of. The 69 Mantle, obviously, which is another really tricky one. Mike, I love that you have the last name in white too. That's a great Mantle. The 69 Mantle is absolutely fantastic. And then I think there's the string of right in a row of Clemente, which the 73 Clemente is kind of a haunting card, I feel like. I love the 72 is actually my favorite of all his cards where he's tossing the ball, but the 73 Clemente, 73 Mize is, Willie's showing his age in that one. The 76 Aaron, which is another one that is quite a doozy to find. That one's got all kinds of issues with centering and print marks and stuff. You can tell I get a little picky. But the 76 Aaron, and then really to me and those are like the big tentpole cards. And then like Feller, I think Rizzuto in a way, Phil Rizzuto, Yogi. Yogi, I was really surprised. Yogi Berra commands. He's, I think, still got a lot of hobby popularity.
I've been saying that for a long time, and I keep saying it because I keep trying to buy stuff, and it's like, really, it's that expensive? Whatever.
I know. It's shocking. I mean, I was looking at that 65 tops is Yogi's last card, and he's with the Mets. And I think it says like he's a coach even. I think he's like a player coach on that card. And man, that thing is, you're talking, relatively speaking, 80 to $100 for a nice copy, and which that can be a lot of money for some people, and for other people, Yogi commands a premium. I was really shocked, but he's got such great cards, like all across the board. All the Yogis are great. I love Yogi.
Yeah. So you mentioned the coach thing. There's a lot of guys' last cards that have that. Warren Spahn, as a matter of fact, his 65 tops with the Mets. He's also listed as pitcher coach, and man, Spahn looks old in that card.
Oh, that's what I affectionately dub the big head, no hat.
Right.
Some of those are pretty classic for tops in the 60s of the big head, no hat cards. I love those. Nellie Fox, I think, gets a player coach designation too.
He does.
Also from 65. So yeah, it's such a fun. There's so much diversity to the set. Robin Robertson in Astros uniform, like, oh, that card is so cool. That 66 tops, I just love it.
One of my favorites is the 71 tops Ernie Banks.
Oh yeah,
his smile in that picture, it literally encompasses / just encapsulates his entire career of how he loved the game. And you see his joy in that smile on that card. It's greatness.
Oh, it's such a great card. And those 71 tops, again, that's another one those are just beautiful. Just beautiful, beautiful cards. And I think that Banks is another what I would consider tentpole card as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just kind of I have the list pulled up here, and I'm looking at some of these cool, like Larry Dobby. I think his last card on 59 tops is with the Tigers.
I'll tell you a funny story quick with the Larry Dobby. It's really not that great of a looking card. It's another kind of big head, no hat type card. And I actually, at my Larry Dobby is a PSA 2, but it actually looks really, really nice. The reason that it's a 2 is there's this tiny, tiny little bit of paper loss on the back. I mean, just a speck, and it knocked it all the way down to a 2. I try to do mostly 6 is about my cutoff point for most cards, 5 for like a mantle or something. But it's funny the Larry Dobby. That's he's with the Tigers, and it's just crazy. Love it.
And you can really tell when tops would, if a player was with a new team that they weren't accustomed to them being with, a lot of the early, especially the 60s stuff, they would just airbrush out an old, they're wearing a XYZ uniform and their new team, they're like, screw it, we're not going to take a picture, we're just going to airbrush that out, or take the hat off, and that'll work. No problem.
What I think is one of my underrated gems and one of my favorites of the set, and is the 1958 George Kell. If anybody gets a chance to look this card up that's listening, it's just a beautiful card, and these 58s, they just really have a 50s feel to them. Very, like, he's not, I can think of probably 20 other guys who are as deserving to be in the Hall of Fame as George Kell that aren't in the Hall of Fame, but for some reason I love that card.
Isn't he on the Orioles on that card or something weird?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful card, that blue on the back, and it's just beautiful. That's again, you could tell for all you listening out there, Mike and I, we just absolutely love this set. I'm pretty passionate about it, Mike.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that we can share this discussion, and I have you on here to talk about this. The last kind of big topic, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit on the newer side. Let's say you get into the modern era, let's say post 2005, let's say even 2000, even finding these cards, if you want to do them raw, if you want to do the set raw, man, more power to you. That's great. You and I have just decided to do them slabbed, but again, there's no wrong way to do it. Either way is good if you love this idea and want to do this project. But finding the newer cards, again, let's say 2000 and newer, slabbed, very difficult, right? And when you do find them, very expensive.
Extremely difficult, even starting, I think, in the mid 80s and going forward, but particularly with the ultra modern stuff. I was raiding Four Sharp Corners for a while and was having some luck, but like Pedro Martinez, super tough. Tony Gwynn, super tough. Ricky Henderson, which is one I've been looking for since I started this project, super tough. Guys like Jack Morris, some of your kind of lesser guys, super, super tough. The 86 Raleigh Fingers, really, really tough. I've been looking for that one. They're really, really hard. It's really frustrating. And then a lot of times these modern ones go to auction and you're battling with other people who I feel like are working on this set. I lost out on a Raleigh Fingers to auction. I lost out on the 03 Ricky Henderson. It's tough, and they're neat though, because I love like the modern ones, like the Pudge Rodriguez. He's with, I think, the Nationals.
Yep.
But it's awesome. He's like, I don't know, consoling Scherzer or Strasburg or something.
Strasburg.
Oh, it's great. It's such a great card.
You know what else? You're probably, it's probably people competing that are player collectors or team collectors. And since there's just not that many out there, there's a lot of holes that card could fill for different people's collections, not just necessarily last Topps card. And so it becomes a little bit of a struggle to find them at a reasonable, because that's the funny thing. And people think I'm crazy, and sorry, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here, but we're talking about 10-cent cards, quarter cards. And to get them in a 9 or even a 10, you're talking about $15, $20, $30. And you think
upwards of 60 for some, like Tony Gwynn. Yeah.
And so you're like, well, why would you do that, Mike? And the answer is, I'm probably a little bit crazy. That's probably part of the answer. But yeah. I even thought that. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is a quarter card. So what I did is I went through and kind of just looked at all the different holes that I had in it. And by the way, in terms of completion, I only need one card. Sorry. Excuse me.
Which one?
I need the Ted Simmons, I think, which is 86, maybe.
Like 88 tops, maybe?
Or 88. No, that's Don Sutton's in 88. Hall of Famer Don Sutton, everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
Whichever. Anyway.
It's challenging though, because you could like try to submit one, but it's going to cost you $20 to submit one. It's like
that's kind of the rub, right? I went on to Sport Lots on all the ones. There were 30 or so that I was just kind of like, God, this is stupid. This is literally on Sport Lots you can buy it for 18 cents, and so I went and bought 4 or 5 of each of them, and spent, per card I spent $1. To get 4 or 5 copies of it, hoping that one was good enough to send in. And, I ended up submitting them all. Sometimes I would submit 2, just hoping I could get a better grade. Like I just did Adrian Beltre as an example. I just submitted 2 Adrian Beltres because he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And I'd rather be ahead of the curve than behind on that whole thing. And so, because finding those cards slab, like who's going to slab a 2018 Adrian Beltre? And that's the whole point. Who wants to slab a, 2007 Craig Biggio? Like,
right. That's what's so challenging.
And so I did that, and I was able to fill all the holes, which was great. But I had to do that because what's funny is when I bought a Roy Halladay, this was what got me to do this. I think Halladay's last card's 14 or let me look. Roy Halladay's last card, 14 tops. There was one out there, and when I looked it up on the registry, it was the only one graded. Like not just none higher. It was literally the only 2014 tops. Now that has since changed, because when I did this when I was first this genesis of this idea, I was trying to find some of these, and the Halliday was one I found. I was like, well, crap, I can't go get another one. There isn't another one. And that was like, well, that sucks. And I bought it, and I paid, again, a 10-cent card that I paid $25 for or something crazy. And it's only a 9. It's not even a 10. And,
yeah, I think I did that with the Vladimir Guerrero. I think I got a 9 in that 2011 Topps Traded,
Yeah.
of course, which is the famous Trout set too. And it was kind of like, for me, a lot of times I'm like, it's now or never. I mean, I was looking at a 10 of that card initially, and the person wanted $90 for it. Like, I don't even really like Vladimir Guerrero, like personally, I'm like, it's and like the funniest one, Mike, on your list, on your non-Topps registry list, is the 1995 Victory Jack Morris. I'm like,
yes.
I don't think I'm ever gonna find that card.
No, and you'll have to submit it. And if you can, and that's the rub too. I mean, you're still buying a 10-cent card, putting anywhere from $15, let's say, to $20 to get it slabbed. It's still not worth that. Like, really, like, let's just be honest. It's not worth
to get a 5. Yeah.
Yeah, and you might get a 5, and then you're like, well, this sucks. And
Yeah.
then you'll have to do it all over again. And the point is, don't do it unless you love it, because you're going to put a lot of money into it that is sunk cost. Like, it's gone. You're never going to see it again because the cards aren't worth that. But I did it just because I loved seeing them all together. And I need to do a showcase of all those cards, or I can't even remember if I've done that. But
I did a year 1 progress video on my YouTube channel. And it's just amazing to see them all laid out. It's like a huge Topps retrospective with some junk wax era cards thrown in there for good measure, and just beautiful. It's so much fun. So much fun. I love it. I've definitely slowed down on it a little bit, as like we were just talking about, some of the newer stuff is challenging to find. And I got to just find the right ones of the few. The big guys that I have left are Page, Rizzuto, Feller, the Williams from Fleer, and then the Dimaggio from Burke Ross. I'd say those are like the 5 kind of big cards that I have left. And it's, hopefully next year at this time I have a couple of those,
Well, what advice would you give someone that is thinking about maybe starting this project or this set, whatever we want to call it?
I think starting off with some of your favorite players who are Hall of Famers. If you like some of the newer stuff, look for some of those guys, Griffey, Jim Tomei, Chipper. You can find those around. It's a great way to learn about the vintage hobby as well, though. And there's some cheap guys, George Kell and Monty Urban, and like some of those guys. It's just really just kind of explore the registry list, and then you got to start somewhere on it. You don't have to start off with the Satchel Paige or something. You can, or look for a nice Clemente or something. It's very doable and very affordable, and it definitely, this set fits everybody's budget. You could, and it's really fun and wonderful, and just a great way to enjoy the hobby, which is what I look at this as a hobby, and I love the cards.
Yeah.
I occasionally sell things to fund my hobby. For instance, for this set, I sold a Manny Machado Chrome Refractor rookie to buy my 57 Campanella. I was very happy about that. That makes it kind of self-sustaining. But yeah, I think there's something for everybody in this, and even for younger collectors out there who may be listening. Vintage is super cool, and talk to your dads or your uncles or your grandpa about some of these old players, and learn about the history of the game. And this is a great way to learn about the history of the game too.
For sure. It's one of my favorite things about this project is the history lesson that you're given every time you turn one of the cards over and start to read. Well, Kevin, as we finish up here, I want you to just tell everybody kind of how they can find you out in social media world, YouTube, etc.
Well, it's a little tricky because my YouTube channel name is just my name, Kevin Jones, and there's a million of us out there. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, I'm hoping maybe Mike will attach a link at the bottom to my channel. Like and subscribe. I just kind of feature pickups. I like to I keep it pretty light. I go on rants occasionally, but my channel's pretty light. So it's Kevin Jones on YouTube. And that is definitely the number one place to find me. I love to respond to comments. I love to engage with people in the comments and keep it fun. You can occasionally find me over on Blowout in the Tops 20 Project 2020 forum. And feel free, if you see me over there at Kevbo Jones, feel free to send me a message and we can connect through Blowout as well. So yeah, that's the best way to find me.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, thanks so much for coming on here. And we have this shared passion for this set. And I just love sharing it with other people. Hopefully other people will be inspired to maybe get this rolling and, or at least maybe even a few cards or whatever. But I'm glad it inspired you. And it's a fun project. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Mike, and I'm just so glad you're doing a vintage card podcast. It's so wonderful to talk. I could talk vintage all day, and thank you so much for having me on. I love the podcast.
You bet, man. Well, everybody out there, thanks again for listening. Make sure if you haven't listened to the other episodes, go back and check them out. I think you'll enjoy it. Really appreciate everybody. Y'all have a great week and keep collecting.